So, all right, let's get her on because I know she's waiting patiently and dying to talk it. So let's get her on and let's welcome her back. It's been a few weeks. The one and only Kristyn Burtt. How are you, Kristyn?
Hi, how are you?
I'm home. I'm safe, and I'm away from the craziness of Cosby. So
Tell me about it. I want to hear like all the exciting stuff.
You know what? Like the dealership that I work at is literally it's probably a mile and a half, no more than 2 miles down the road from the courthouse. So I should have went down there. Like I didn't know when it was going to happen, like the announcement, and I didn't want to just sit there. And then actually I was taping an interview this afternoon with somebody in Sweden, and all of a sudden I saw it start popping up on my on Facebook like guilty. I'm like, oh shit, I should run down there. And next thing I know, like helicopters are hovering. I'm like, oh, this is insanity. And at that point I was like, yeah, I'm just staying away.
I told you to drive down there. I was like, go down there.
I know. Right away I thought of you. I'm like, damn. If Kristyn was here, if you were here, like then I would go. Like just by myself, I wouldn't. You know what I mean? Because it'd be a whole project. And I even said to like the owner of the dealership, I'm like, how is it down there? He's like, oh, I'm not going down there.
Yeah, I mean, you would probably like you'd have to Uber or Lyft because you don't want to take your car down there. It's going to be hard to park. There's going to be limitations as to where you could, what streets you can go down, because it really was a big mob scene. And I think what interested me the most was Cosby's reaction. I mean, he was just downright, like he does not believe he did anything wrong. That is the bottom line, and that's what makes it so fascinating to me.
Now, the one thing that like really like I was saying to my wife was, you know, I guess they were saying they don't want him to have bail and they want it revoked, and they were making a comment that he owns his own personal plane, and he burst out and said, I don't own a plane, asshole, or something like that. And I thought to myself, this guy's 80 years old. He's been doing stand-up for, 40, 50 years, and his wisdom was never comes to nothing in his, any of his stand-up or anything. And at 80 years old in court is when he finally decides to start cursing.
You know, first of all, his health, he's in very poor health. So we do know that. Like, his health is failing. And if he is put in jail, and, you know, he's facing 10 years for each charge, so that's 30 years in total, it's going to be a death sentence for him. And you just think about this. Like, this was an incredible story, incredible success in his career, loved by everybody. And this is how the story ends, because the person he presented in public was not the man he was in private. And I think people that did even know him in private also knew. I mean, like, if you talk to any of the kids that were on the Cosby Show, now they're all now adults, but, you know, he encouraged them to go to college. He made time for them. You know, I was at NYU and Tempest Bledsoe was there. He would accommodate her NYU schedule so that she got an education and could still do the show, but he was like, your education's the most important thing. Like, he did some really wonderful things, donated to wonderful charities, supported Black artists. And then there was, like, this incredibly dark side to him that was, like, none of us knew about it.
Wow.
And I bet that dark side swore left and right. You know that Bill Cosby at, like, the Playboy Mansion back in the day was, like, dropping F-bombs everywhere.
Now, it's. Do you actually think, like me and my wife were discussing this earlier once I got home, like, and I think the big thing that we were both saying is what you just said is his health. Do you think that he'll actually end up going to prison?
You know, I think the judge has already tipped his hand on that a little bit and saying, you know, I'm not going to just – he's letting him go home. He's not going to let him just sit while he's awaiting sentencing, which can take anywhere from 30 to 90 days depending on, you know, what's happening. And, of course, Cosby's also going to appeal. I have a feeling the judge will have some empathy towards that. But he's, you know, I think he's going to do some time. I don't, because, you know, you have 3 charges, all found guilty. All of them carry a maximum of 10 years. So, you know, he's going to have to serve some time, I think.
Interesting.
That's my thought. Of course, I'm not a lawyer. We all know
Right,
that.
right.
That's looking at the overall picture of this. And I think, too, it makes me think, like, had this case come up 4 or 5 years ago, before Me Too, before Time's Up, he might not have gotten any jail time. But for a judge to know that the jury convicted him and then to be like, we're not going to give you any jail time, that judge knows that he'd have to face a major backlash as well.
Yeah. Now, like, what about with the like his image? Bottom line, his image. You know, like you said, like he's done amazing things. People never would have thought this, expected it. Even like people are still very hard to accept the reality of this. Even though we've been talking about this for a couple of years now with all these accusations.
Yeah.
Do you think there will be a time that, like, it'll be accepting to watch the Cosby Show again, like, and people might finally forget it?
That's a great question, because that sitcom is such a wonderful representation of a middle-class black family, two well-educated, succeeding family members. I
Sure.
think, you know, with kids, you know, it's a shame because, yes, we do have representation of that now. We still need more of it. But if you go back to when that show aired in the 80s, they were pretty much representing everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, Bounce TV pulled all the reruns today. So it's been back and forth and back and forth. They've run it, they've pulled it, they've run it, they've pulled it, it's pulled again. It's going to be really tough. It's going to be one of those that it's going to take a generation, I think, to sort of forget what happened or not know what happened and not really know who Cosby is, and then someone like pulls out a retrospective and we watch it. Whether we'll be alive, I don't know, because, you know, we grew up in the Cosby era.
Yeah, that was such a juggernaut of a show.
Yeah, I mean, it was an incredible show. You have to remember also we had to go back to Thursday nights when it was must-see TV for NBC, and you were watching the Cosby Show into Family Ties. Like that comedy block, we watched for hours and hours. You just sit in front of the TV between 8 and 11. And so you just sit there and you think, wow, like that was everything. I remember running home for the Cosby Show. He was the pudding pop guy. I loved that. You know, he did picture pages for a younger generation that even watched Captain Kangaroo. Obviously, Fat Albert, back when Saturday morning cartoons were something. Look at the legacy. Look at what he leaves behind. It's so tough. And, you know, it's kind of like Michael Jackson as someone. You know, I love Michael Jackson's music. There's a lot of cloud of really awful stuff in Michael's history. And, you know, it's one of those things. It's like, how do you separate the awful things that a person did versus the incredible things that an artist did?
Oof. That's an amazing question and statement right there.
Yeah, I haven't worked it out myself in my own brain. I'll be super honest about it. So, you know, like certain people I can sort of like, you know, Kevin Spacey, I never really loved him as an actor. So for me, I'm like, I'm okay, you know, if I never watch another Kevin Spacey thing. But people that like really appeal to like everybody, how do you reconcile all of that? I'm not sure whether it's time will be the answer. And, you know, here's the other thing on all of this as well, in the Me Too Time's Up era. A lot of these men that were accused in the fall, and it's only been about 6 months, are all trying to make a comeback. And in fact, they asked Tina Brown, who's a well-known publisher, if she would host a show and interview some of the men that have been accused and how they're making their comeback. And, you know, it was going to feature like people like Louis C.K. and Matt Lauer. And I got to tell you, she pushed back on it. And that would be something for me I would push back. I'm not ready to see Matt Lauer back on the air. I'm like, what has he learned in 3 months?
Yeah.
How is he sorry? Is he sorry that he just got caught? You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I feel like Louis C.K., is going to make a comeback faster than most of them. Because not that what he did was, it's so hard, you know, everyone has levels of how they measure things. but he used to masturbate in front of women, and I think people will forgive that way faster than physically grabbing at women, constantly calling women up and harassing them, calling them names. I think for some way or shape or form, that masturbation seems to be like of a lesser a lesser crime. I mean, if a man ever did that in front of me, I would probably be like, oh my God, what is this? But it's never happened to me, thank God. But I feel like people are going to forgive that faster.
Just the
I don't know how the women who were the victims of that feel about that.
The statement alone, just like, it's such a scary statement just to even ponder. But it's.
And again, here's what we need to remember. Like, all of the young women coming up behind us, you don't want your daughters to go into an environment where, like, yeah, it's fine for Louis C.K. to come on back. Because you don't want someone like Louis C.K. doing that to your daughter when it's
right.
Unwanted and, like, he's your boss or he's your superior. We have to make sure that we've learned something out of this. And I feel like if we're already trying to create a TV show of people, like, being, so apologetic and sorry that they got caught, 6 months later, I'm not sure we've learned anything. Yeah,
it's too soon. It's way too soon.
Yeah. The embers are still burning. And there's still other people that haven't even been caught.
Actually, it's been kind of quiet, though. Like, beside the Cosby thing, like, not many new accusations have come up. I think if more come out, that could, like, slow up that process of, like, whoa, like, don't bring these people. You know what I mean? It's been kind of quiet. I'm guessing, like, where people think, like, oh, like, it's like almost like a safe time to start treading back.
Yes, because the media moves on to something else. And that's really the bottom line of it. And I think that there's also pushback a little bit where some men were like, whoa, you're wrongly accusing me of something. But I think that this is a dialogue, and I had a big discussion with a bunch of people the other night about the Aziz Ansari thing, where he went on a date, and he went on one date, and his date, who was in the room with them, interpreted it being the date a whole other way. And
right.
And to me, it was just like communication. Women are afraid to speak up oftentimes. Men think, oh, this is going great because she's, engaging in physical activity with me. But I said a lot of times women feel that if you just go through with the act, it will all be over sooner. And I like saying that. Doesn't that sound sad?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
It's really sad. Yeah, it's really sad because, I don't want to be in that position. I don't want any other female to be in that position. So how do we empower women to, say, I'm uncomfortable doing this, or I don't want to do this, I want to go home, and making sure that they're not feeling like their safety is at risk. I don't think this woman felt like she was unsafe, but at the same time, she didn't feel like she was able to get out of that situation without engaging in some sort of act with him. And he, of course, is reading her body language as like, okay, she's playing a little hard to get maybe, but she's still engaging in physical activity. So we need to make sure that, like, men are reading body signs, women are being verbal. So it's kind of interesting. And where do we teach that? How do we get our young men and women who are just, like, going into the dating pool and everything else, how do we get them to say, it's okay, or watch what your date is doing. Do they look uncomfortable? Take a step back.
It's so mind blowing. It really is. It really, really, really is.
Yeah, it is. And and I think back, like, I've had dates where I felt uncomfortable and probably didn't want to go down a path that I was sort of going down when I was younger. And trying to go back, and I was like, yeah, you just kind of like want to go home. You're just kind of like, I'm not ready for this. And whether you like them or don't like them or whatever, and sometimes you're like, oh, it's just easier if I kiss them, and then then I can go inside. You know what I mean? And like I can go home. So there's some sort of disconnect between men and women. Also, what we're teaching our younger generation in terms of what dating is, and ownership of not only your actions but ownership of what you're feeling in the moment. I know, and these are really hard conversations. Like, if you're a parent, it's always awkward to be like, okay, we're going to talk about sex, but it's at the same time, these are actually things about sex that we should really, really talk about.
Yeah.
Because I think we get so caught up in, like, abstinence, protection, waiting, whatever that is, that we forget, like, that there's a whole other dialogue that needs to be occurring.
It's scary all the way around.
And Nick, it is, doesn't it make you happy you're married and just not worried about this?
Yeah, but you know what? Like, going on to, like, you were just saying, like, the whole daughter thing, like, both myself and Nick have daughters, and I was just going to say that to Nick, like, have you ever had to, like, have any of these conversations with your daughter yet?
Now look, I don't want to play into traditional gender roles, but I kind of let my wife handle all of that.
That's okay. I mean, whoever the most comfortable parent is doing it, it's fine. But as long as the conversations are happening, I mean, I think that to me is what matters.
Yeah, I think that ultimately for her, she's going to be more comfortable talking to her mom about it. You know what I mean?
Yep, of course. I totally understand that because I was the same way. So that makes complete sense. I think I'm just saying, I think we need to have some multi-level conversations going on, like an ongoing dialogue about it, which is kind of interesting. And I've had them with my niece, and it's kind of easier, I think, sometimes for my niece to kind of free flow between, like, what's happening in the dating scene, stuff that she might not necessarily tell her mom, and just being able to say, it's okay to do this or say this or feel that or get out of a situation. You should never feel forced to do something or say something, and own that. Like, I'm feeling really uncomfortable right now. I'm being okay saying I'm uncomfortable.
So I'm gathering, like, you've brought your niece up a few times. Are you like the cool aunt that she can talk to?
I try to be. I try to be as open as possible. She grew up. Her mom and her stepdad are much more conservative than my side of the family. So I think what's been really wonderful is that she's actually had a wonderful religious upbringing from her mom and her stepdad. And then she's also had what I would say is a different perspective from my family. And neither side has squashed her thinking on any of this. Do you know what I mean? Like, everyone's kind of allowed her to form her own opinions, and that way the dialogue has come up. And, I mean, at 12, she asked me about abortion, and it was like, my heart dropped a little bit. Not because she needed one or anything else, but it's a really challenging conversation to have, and I completely respect her family's beliefs, because for me personally, I am pro-life, but for every woman, I am pro-choice, because you need to make that decision for yourself. Right. And I do believe that deciding to be pro-life is actually a choice. So I kind of had this weird little perspective on all of it. And so, we had an interesting dialogue about that, but I would never condemn someone for believing with it. But I don't like people squashing other people's beliefs or needs. We don't follow we're not walking in their footsteps. We don't know what their journey is. You should only worry about your own journey and what works for your family.
I'll tell you what, I've been lucky. Like, I actually had to have the conversation with my my older daughter when she was younger. The whole sex talk and all that. She came to me about it, and it was I'll never forget it. It was such a weird, awkward thing. My younger daughter, who just turned 14 a few weeks ago, like, she just neither of them are there. Neither of them are in the world of relationships or sex or anything. They're just so happy in the world of video games and comic books and stuff like that. They have no desire with relationships. And I'm very happy about that situation.
Yeah, but you want them to have the information in case they find a boy that they like, and you know what I mean, and start dating, and because that's what it's about. It's really, I think parents get really, and obviously I'm not a parent, so you can give me but as a parent, I'm just saying outside perspective, just having the information so that they're prepared. If they decide not to date, or if they don't decide to date until they're 30, it's okay. You had those dialogues with them. You armed them with as much information, and that's great. That's what we need to do instead of going, let's withhold all this information. I'm like, no, let's just give it to them. It's not going to, as you know, putting a kid in sex ed is not going to make them want to have sex. You know what I mean? It's when they meet someone that you're like, uh-oh, that's what's coming.
Yeah, you know what? I know. Go ahead, Nick.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, the other thing that we have to kind of think about is that dating is different for, I would say, even like a 20-year-old today, it's going to be a lot different than a 15-year-old because, when I was a kid, if you didn't go outside and play with your friends and stuff, it was boring and you kind of didn't have anybody to hang out with. But, my daughter, it's completely different. I tell her all the time, why don't you go out? Why don't you go see your friends? She's like, dude, I'm talking to my friends all day. We watch YouTube videos together. You know what I mean? So it's such a different experience. I can't even imagine what dating's going to be like for her.
Right. And remember, a lot of the courting, we don't get to see. It's not like they're going to school and they're flirting with a boy per se. Oftentimes they're flirting in direct messages, like in DMs or on Snapchat, and parents have to be aware of what's happening on social media. And I think we've had this discussion before, my sister-in-law is not active on social media. We've had to call her several times about her oldest son, and I'm like, and it's not anything sex related, but it is other stuff that if any parent or school saw this, they might be a little bit concerned. And she's posting photos of weapons. And he does have a genuine interest in weapons. He doesn't own any, but you have to, what you're putting out there is how people interpret who you are and what's happening. So I'm like, you need to be watching these things. And he's a daredevil. He'll be up on the top of a roof jumping off things. And I'm like, are you aware that your son's jumping off buildings? And putting it on, Instagram, stuff like that. So you have to, parenting is different. It is. It's a different type of not checking up on in the living room with their date, seeing if they're holding hands or sitting on each other's lap. Now it's give me your phone. What's happening in your DMs and Snapchat?
Wow. Is Snapchat even still a thing? Is that still going, or did one of the?
It is still going.
I use it every day.
Do you really?
Yeah. That's exactly why I use it, because it's the most fun.
It has the best filters, and a lot of people will take a photo in Snapchat and then send it on over to Instagram because they're like, that I don't know what the filter's called, but everyone likes how they look on it. It lightens up everything.
And a lot of people, especially celebrities and comedians and stuff, especially younger ones, they'll leave Snapchat just running for hours, and you just hang out with them while they're running errands or getting dressed for a movie or any crazy thing.
Absolutely. So you get a kind of feel for their day. It's their own version. It's live blogging, essentially. And while it's not as popular since Instagram, created their own live platform as well, people are still there. It's not going away anytime soon.
Interesting. I don't have time for it. That's why I just don't have time for it.
You said that about Spotify, and now look at you.
I know. Nick has converted me to Spotify in the last 2 weeks. I'm hooked on it now.
I love it. It's keeping you in the loop.
I've been so just against it because of just the way it treats the artist. But I get it now. I just get the simplicity and the easiness, and I just get it. It's just so much easier.
Yeah, makes sense. You're it's my new thing.
So there was another huge crime story, criminal story this week out here in Philadelphia as well. And
this one is crazy.
You know what the scary part is? I didn't even realize, like, he was in what's known as the Chester, Pennsylvania prison. And that prison, I didn't even realize that's where he was. I thought he was in the one that's in downtown Philly. But that one is, like, 10 minutes from my house. I could have been there, too. I was bummed. When I saw it on the news, I'm like, wait, he's there? And then the owner of the Sixers is going there in a helicopter and picking him up. I'm like, this is just a weird thing what's going on in our world right now.
Everything's like orbiting you. Forget Hollywood.
I know. We have all the criminals, though. Like, we want some, like, happy stuff. I mean, we had the Super Bowl. We had Villanova. And now, like, the last few days, we just have scumbags.
It happens. You know what? It's like sometimes you're just like, why are we getting these people? Your turn.
So what are your thoughts on the whole Meek Mill thing? The whole thing just boggles my mind.
You know, I think it's interesting because I think it's going to be talking a lot about how he's being treated. Because I think we talk a lot of this about how white and black celebrities, or even just out there in the world, are treated differently through the court system. And I think that this is going to be a big discussion. I really do.
Yeah.
And I think, he's got a lot to say about this. And I just think that it's a bigger story than just like TMZ covering it. Because you know what? Nobody else is really covering it other than TMZ.
Oh, really?
You don't see, it's not splashed across the front of People magazine by any means.
Well, yeah, that's true. See, I'm just so used to anymore watching the TMZ every day that I see it. Like, that's their big story the last few days. It's like, it's going to go from that to Cosby. But, yeah, they've been all over the whole Meek Mill thing.
Yeah, I think they've got a source somehow embedded in that because they've been on it for a very long time.
But it is, like, I think, like you were saying, I think it's going to really truly turn into a whole bigger story of the bottom line of how he was treated. But, I mean, if he did wrong, like, that's the part that bothers me. Like, and I'm not really educated on the whole situation, but it's the bottom line if he did wrong, and I don't know if he did or not, but I thought he did initially. And I've heard from people, like, throughout the area that, like, he's involved in some, like, shady stuff. And so, I don't know. Maybe it's me.
Yeah, but, it is interesting. He obviously has some guilt a lot, with this situation. However, at the same time, I'm like, had that been a white celebrity, I just feel like I would have been different. I really do.
I without a doubt, yeah.
See, I thought you were going to talk about the other crime story. There's another crime story that's celebrity related with the Golden State Killer and Patton Oswalt's now deceased wife.
Oh, you know what? I don't really know nothing about this. I saw the article splash up this morning, and I was like, "Oh, what is this?"
Yeah, yesterday this was a huge story. I mean, this has been ongoing, but the Golden State Killer, I think, committed like over 50 rapes. He was a serial killer as well because he moved from like robbing people's houses to raping people to then murdering people. And he would break into like couples' homes, and he would like tie up the man, put a bunch of dishes on him, then make them watch him rape their wife or girlfriend. And he'd be like, "If you move, I'm killing you both if the dishes fall." I mean, like crazy psychotic type of stuff. Of course, he was former law enforcement because they were never able to find DNA for years and years and years. So that's kind of interesting, someone who was really an expert at forensics. That's why he has been able to get away with it for so long. And his wife, Patton Oswalt's first wife, because he's now married. He's remarried, I should say. He said that his wife at the time was obsessed with the case, and she had a whole community following her with this. She was in the Reddit community. She started writing a book on it, and like her interest in the case and keeping it out there in public really allowed for the police to kind of like take a second look at it and really decide whether they should pursue some of the stuff. And some of the new DNA techniques were way more modern, and they were able to take some old evidence and find out who it actually was. And of course, they had some DNA in the system, and lo and behold, it's like a guy who's now like 72 years old, former law enforcement, former military.
Wow.
So this is going to be really interesting how this case plays out when they do the trial. Right now, he's only charged with one murder, so they're starting there. But it'll be interesting to see how it plays out as they sift through other cases.
That is crazy.
Yeah, and so Patton managed to get the book published after she passed away. In fact, it was only published like a few months ago. So now it's going to be it was already a big hit. It's going to be an even bigger seller because, you know, he managed to finish off the book with a ghostwriter, because I think there were a couple chapters that were still left to be finished, and he got it published. Now I'm dying to read it. I'm like, oh my God, this sounds so interesting.
Wow. Patton Oswalt seems like you just look at the guy. There's just something about him that, like, when I look at him, like, I don't, just something in my heart, like. And I don't really know this whole backstory about his first wife or nothing, but I just look at him and there's something like just pulls on the heartstrings about the guy. Like, he just seems like such a sincere, real guy.
He wears his heart on his sleeve. He was devastated when his wife passed away. I think also, you know, I think his daughter was around 8 years old when 6. She was young. And I think, you know, he's like, the only reason I got up every day was to get that little girl off to school, you know. And I think it was Martha Plimpton introduced him to Meredith Salinger, Journey of Nat Again, if you ever remember that movie, and introduced the two of them. They fell like head over heels, and he got married a little over a year after his wife had passed, and people were like, too soon, whatever. But he's just one of those guys that does better in marriage. You know what I mean? And he knew that she was going to be a great stepmother to his daughter, that this was the right thing, and he almost felt like his wife sent her down to take care of them. Because I don't think he's not good alone. He's just one of those guys. He's got a very big heart.
Yeah, I mean, he seems, and so does she, because I follow her on Instagram. They seem very, very happy, and so I see him in the pictures all the time, and that's all I just keep thinking to myself is they just seem like a very happy, and he just seems like such an amazing person.
Yeah, and I think she's really, you know, the best thing you can do is honor the person that came before you, and I think she's doing as much as he is to keep them, to keep the legacy of Michelle's work alive, and for their daughters, you know. Yeah.
Craziness. See that? I've been so honed in on the Philly criminals. I was leaving out the West Coast criminals.
Yeah, I mean, and I think this story is going to be big. It's going to be a long journey, and I'm like, I wouldn't doubt that like movies get made about this. Not only just about the actual serial killer, but about Michelle's work and what she created.
Oh, sure. Yeah, without a doubt.
So I kind of look forward to that. But I'm going to get the book and read it because I'm so fascinated right now. It's going to be my summer reading to start out.
Now, do you still do you do the actual book reading, or like it's since I've just done the switch to Audible or Spotify? Something I've really done in the last 2 years has been Audible. Like I barely read books anymore. It's all like listening. It's just so much easier and quicker for me.
You know, I kind of divide everything up. In my car, I listen to podcasts, and then when I want to actually read, I want a book because I want to put down all my electronics and read. Because I loved reading as a kid. It was like my favorite thing. So I think that was something I'll probably continue to do. One of the few things I'll give up.
Hold on to them books.
Oh, you guys, by the way, this is so weird. Like literally like 5-10 minutes ago, new allegations of sexual harassment by Tom Brokaw and more allegations against Matt Lauer.
Oh.
And by the way, it's coming from the Washington Post. It's coming from a credible source. It's not coming from like National Enquirer.
Holy cow.
Yeah, and I think I'm just kind of reading the subtitle. I haven't I'm not diving into the text of it, but Washington Post has it, and it's talking about how NBC News faces skepticism in remedying in-house sexual harassment.
Oh boy.
I know. I was like, isn't that weird? You were just saying it's like you called it out, you conjured it up.
Yeah, that's gonna.
But I think
it's gonna squash them back down. 3
yeah,
months
and
is
I
way
think
too soon.
It reminds you of like newsrooms really are an old boys club, and even in 2018, they're still an old boys club.
Wow. Even after, I mean, like I remember, was it? It probably wasn't even 6 months ago, like when this stuff was really breaking, and you guys, you said you had that, the talk from the company where they had to have the sexual harassment talk with everybody.
Oh yeah, right away. I mean, they called us all in, and they were like, "All right, tomorrow we've got legal coming in," and it's a 3-hour presentation. They covered literally everything. They covered active shooter, sexual harassment, like. They were like, because I think it was right after Vegas, too.
Now, did things change, or like where there was something like, where something changes for a little bit and then they go back to, like you're saying, the boys club?
I would say that the particular newsroom I work in is not bad at all, honestly. I feel like I get treated fairly. I don't feel like men get treated better than women do in this newsroom. Some of the news we put out is a little more, it favors men versus women a little bit more, but my personal stories or anything else aren't, I don't feel like I'm dealing with like, oh my gosh, time's up. You know what I mean? I'm not dealing with that.
Interesting.
And, and like, listen, every single newspaper or news site, media site, or anything else like that has its own flavor and bend. Like, if you're going to read like Teen Vogue or Cosmo, it's going to favor the women's view versus the men's view more. So that's what I always think. Like, so I'm okay with like some of our stories. I think favor men a little bit more. If I feel like I want to tell more women's stories, I also work for She Knows, and She Knows can sit there. We tell a lot of stories from a female's point of view. So there's a balance.
Right.
You have to be able to tell both sides. Otherwise, it's ridiculous.
Absolutely. Now, how about it's that time, and I know you're excited. Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah, that starts on Monday. Only 4 weeks this season. Remember, it's very short. But here's some interesting little tidbit. Sources told me that Tanya Harding, behind the scenes, very kind, thoughtful to the crew, is really enjoying the experience. So I just thought I'd throw out something nice about her because thrilled that she's on the show, but if she's doing it the right way, awesome.
Ooh, interesting.
Mhm. The other interesting thing is, and I don't know how to pronounce her name. I think it's Arike. She's the Notre Dame basketball player. She can't do any promotion for the show because of NCAA rules.
Oh.
So she can dance on the show because it's dancing, but she can't promote it while she's rehearsing for it because she's on the show because of her ability as a basketball player. Her notoriety brought her there.
Now, can she get paid?
She can get paid because it's dancing, so there's like a weird loophole in all of this. But she can't go on any, like she can't go, if she gets eliminated, she can't go on Good Morning America because it's Notre Dame has a specific contract and she's only allowed to appear on those certain channels. She can't appear on Good Morning America. And so there are all these weird rules, and ABC is monitoring it, NCAA is monitoring it, Notre Dame's monitoring it. She can't even put a photo up in her like disco outfit or ballroom outfit, like, hey, I'm on Dancing with the Stars. She literally has to put like, I'm up to something, and put like a dancing emoji. And you'll see it right there on her Instagram page. It's crazy. She can retweet stuff where other people have written that she's going to be on Dancing with the Stars, but she can't personally promote it.
Wow.
Yeah, and I don't think ABC really understood the NCAA rules and how strict they are with the athletes. So I think that they're like, yeah, we'll get the girl that, kept on like shooting the 3-pointer buzzer, shots and helped Notre Dame win the basketball tournament. But I just think in the end, like half of the show is doing social media promotion.
Right.
And they are doing eliminations right away on Monday. So there's going to be 2 that will be eliminated by the end of the East Coast airing. And she's going to have a very tough time. I got to be honest.
Ooh. How about
I know.
I was actually shocked the other night, like when they were showing, when I was seeing like all the people on there. The one that really shocked me more than like Tanya Harding, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Because right away I'm like, who's going to dance with him? The guy's 7 foot tall.
I know someone who was 5'6" is him, Lindsay Arnold, who won the Mirrorball Trophy last season with Jordan. And I think here's the deal, like. Lindsay's great at sort of making anyone look good out on the dance floor. So she'll do that with Kareem. Kareem, is in his 70s. He's super tall. She's going to have to really figure some things out. But again, remember, he's so beloved. Like, he's such a beloved, like, legendary athlete. He may stick around longer than you think, even if he's a bad dancer or it's a bad match because of height.
The way this is like so far, I mean, just from them 3 tidbits of athletes that we have, it's really making it for a very interesting season, even though it's so short.
And the other thing I want to throw out there, Adam Rapon, the figure skater, is out there. He was the first openly gay athlete at the Olympics, and I'm going to throw this out because he had a little tiff with Vice President Pence before he went to Korea. And, he was just saying, I don't appreciate Pence's stance on LGBT issues. And it's well documented that when Pence was governor of Indiana, he didn't have a great record when it came to those issues. So Adam Rapon spoke up about that. Pence gave him a nice tweet back just saying, hey, go get him, like go win the gold, represent the U.S., yay. They did ask Adam to meet with the vice president before the Olympics, but Adam was like, look, I'm focusing in on the Olympics and what I need to do there. It's a distraction otherwise, but maybe I'll meet up with him after. Of course, that never happened. But a lot of the conservative base, which is a lot of the base that watches Dancing with the Stars, is already like, I'm not watching because of Adam, or I'm not going to vote for him, even though I know he's going to be good because he's a figure skater, because of what he said about Pence. So you have a little bit of like politics playing in here. It's going to be really interesting.
Did you do an envelope for this season?
I did not, just because I have so much going on. Because So You Think You Can Dance has auditions again next week, and World of Dance is coming up. I have like 3 things colliding, and I was like, to organize it with all my followers is like a big undertaking. So I was like, I passed it off to a younger Dancing with the Stars fan who has watched it for years, and I'm like, I officially give it to you.
The passing of the torch.
Passing of the torch, yeah. all the dance shows are colliding this year with their premiere dates and things like that. So my workload is a little heavy right now.
Busy as always.
Yep.
Cool. So, daytime Emmys. Actually, we're talking to Carolyn Hennessy in about a half hour. But
I love
are you
Carolyn.
Yeah. Are you going to be covering it at all, or?
Yeah, I'll be there on Sunday. And Carolyn goes way back. My boyfriend, when I moved to Los Angeles, was in a play with Carolyn. We're going back to like 2000. And it was called Icarus and Aria, and she was one of the stars, and my boyfriend was one of the stars. So she and I go way, way back.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, she's awesome.
I'm going to have to say that.
She'll be there Sunday. I'll be there Sunday. I'm on my way to see Benedict Cumberbatch. That's my other. I'm on my way to see his new show for Showtime for Emmys consideration, that Patrick Melrose show that's coming up.
That's Nick's favorite person.
He's one of my favorite people chatting, but he makes me all. I speak all crazy when I think about the Cumberbatch.
No comment, Nick.
No, yeah, he's like, his name is forbidden in this house. Oh, too funny.
You don't like him?
No, my wife and my mother-in-law are obsessed with him.
Oh, yes. The fandom is called Cumber Bitches.
Oh, that's so funny.
I like him because he's a very cerebral actor. I like that when you can see that they give a lot of thought to the character.
Take note, he's being very quiet.
That's okay. We don't all have to love the same people. It's all good.
No, I don't have anything bad to say about his acting. I'm just not really in the same sort of circle as a lot of his stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I think the only overlap we've ever had was Star Trek and the Avengers. So.
Well, you can see him in Avengers this week.
Yes. It's going to be a huge.
Yeah. Monster at the box office.
Yeah. It's funny. A friend of mine who I met from the Comic-Con circuit out here, he's a local artist. He just put up, if anybody I know post any type of spoilers to Avengers, you will be deleted instantly because I have a Comic-Con this weekend I have to do. Too funny. Too funny. So, all right. So, so you have the daytime Emmys this weekend, and next weekend or next week is Dancing with the Stars. So you think you can dance? You said coming back
Monday. So you think you can dance all day on set Tuesday, and then that night I've got a World of Dance Emmys event. Like, it is like bam, 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 like all week.
Oh, boy.
We're in the Emmys for your consideration time period, so it's pretty busy.
Right. Well, hopefully we'll have you back next week, and hopefully we'll have less crime talk and more happy talk.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm looking forward to it.
For some reason, I think we'll still be talking Cosby, though.
And I think the Golden State murder will also happen. That's going to be a long-term story.
Okay, so maybe we'll just have a little less crime and a little more happy. We'll see.
We'll do our best.
Absolutely. Kristyn, pleasure as always, and hope to talk next week.
All right, have a good one. Thank you.
You too. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, but there she goes. Check her out, Kristyn Burtt. She's all over social media. You can keep up to date with her. Follow her, and I'm pretty sure she said she is on Snapchat. Check her out, Kristyn Burtt, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all over. KRISTYN BURTT. It's KRISTYN BURTT.